In recent times, what constitutes an appropriate teaching method has been debated intensely. Also, under discussion is whether prevailing methods must be totally overhauled or merely refined incrementally. Appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate to ask so many personal questions at our work. You can't really complain about the cold if you are not dressed appropriately. I question the appropriateness. Appropriateness. Appropriateness of this movie for children. Intensely. I prefer to work intensely for 5 or 6 hours a day rather than take it easy for 12 hours. The exam was really intense, but I managed to pass it thanks to all my preparation. The intensity of the job was driving me crazy last week, but everything's done and dusted now. Totally. I totally agree with you. I thought the total price would be $100, but I forgot to include tax. My trip to Japan cost about $4,000 in total. You can't really grasp the meaning of this book from just the first few chapters. You have to consider the work in totality. Overhauled. My watch needs to be overhauled, but I don't know where to get it done. Merely. Kane is merely an acquaintance. I've never hung out with him outside of work. I was mere seconds away from breaking the marathon record. Refine. I've decided to try yoga to refine my posture. Your report could do with some refinement. Incre- incrementally. My hometowns developed incrementally over the last few years. Many believe that traditional teaching methods, such as lectures, classes in formal settings, and craving in preparation for tests and exams, have been reda- rendered obsolete, obsolete by modern technology and recent changes in student attitudes. Lecture. His lecture on classical Japanese was so boring that I started drawing a picture on the corner of my textbook. Duncan lectures at a few colleges but spends most of his time here. My mom started lecturing me again on how dangerous it is to travel overseas by myself. It's becoming more and more common to use tablets in class. Carlan. Yesterday, I pulled an all-nighter to cram for the exam, but I've just realized that the exam is actually tomorrow. The train was crammed full of passengers. Preparation. The best preparation that you can do the night before an exam is to get a good night's sleep. I need to make some preparations for the party tonight. Give me 5 minutes to prepare. I wasn't really prepared for the exam when I took it. Test. I'm so sick of having to take all these pointless tests at school. Render. YouTube and Netflix have rendered by DVD player useless. It's very hard to render English poetry into other languages. Obsolete. Obsolete. The concept of physically going to school to take lessons is a bit obsolete given the number of quality lectures online. How are you going to clear out obsolete inventory? For example, the younger generation is said to have shorter attention spans due to the ubi- ubiquity ubiquity of new technologies and gadgets, and they therefore find traditional knowledge transfer methods unstimulating, rigid, and inflexible. Generation. I didn't really hit it off with my boss because of the generation gap. The best way to generate more page views on your website is through social media. Short. My daughter didn't stop crying for hours because I accidentally cut her hair too short. Span. We were able to get to the top of the mountain in a relatively short span of time. His English is great, but his TOEIC scores are never good because his attention span is so short. Transfer. It's just a guess, but gesturing may be very important in information transfer. I'm going to transfer my data to an external hard disk because my SD card is out of space. I'll give you my bank details so that you can transfer me the money. I had to transfer flights to twice to get to London. Unstimulating. My current job is very stable but intellectually unstimulating. Rigid. The way he talks is too rigid. It's as if he were reading from a dictionary. Inflexible. My boss is super inflexible. My schedule is pretty flexible, so let me know what time works for you. I was flexing my abs all day yesterday, and my six-pack is unbelievably beautiful now. In response, educators are trying to reverse teaching stereotypes in various ways, such as shortening classroom sessions and modifying the speed of learning to suit the needs of struggling students. Reverse. We need to reverse this negative trend in sales. Stereotype. There's a stereotype that we have to start working after graduating from college, but I think we should just do whether we want to. Session. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of this workshop, so please bear with me. Modify. Now that you've signed the contract, we can't modify it from this point on unless we both agree. Pace. You can do things at your own pace, so don't worry about how others are doing. It's been only 10 minutes and you've already had 3 glasses of wine. You should pace yourself. I like working in a fast-paced environment. Suit. We can't make products that suits the needs of every customer, so we should first decide who are targeting. What time suits your schedule? This beige coat suits you very well. Is this app suitable for children? Struggling. He was a struggling artist once, but now he's famous all over the world. I'm struggling to finish my lunch, so feel free to help yourself to some of it. From passive dis, disinterest, disinterest to active learning. Struggling for active student participation in your class, keen to persuade students to concentrate and improve their knowledge retention and satisfaction. Active learning may be the answer. Based on numerous studies performed as well as robust testimony from many teachers that swear by the method. We will briefly summarize the basics of active learning and illustrate with some examples of techniques that can be applied in your class. What is active learning? Active learning refers to any learning activity in which participants interact with each other, as opposite to listening passively. Think, pair, share. The most common active learning method is think, pair, share. This is a peer-to-peer discussion strategy where the lecture is paused and students are given sufficient time to think. Students are then given the cue to pair up and discuss the topic and are instructed to share their thoughts with the class. The time allocation is fundamental to avoiding awkward and tense moments during this period. Flipped classrooms. In a flipped classroom, media consumed at home, such as videos, accomplish the same goal as traditional monotonous classes. Students then proceed to the classroom when a large portion of their time is spent on active learning. Participation, keen, persuade, satisfaction, testimony, swear, summarize, apply, opposed, passively, peer, sufficient, instruct, awkward, tense, period, accomplish, monotonous, proceed, portion. While modern medical professionals are highly educated and formally trained, and the practice of medicine is now thoroughly controlled and standardized. This was not the case until the 20th century. Professional. As a finance professional, you should have at least a basic understanding of accounting. It's important to always behave professionally at work if you want to get promoted. Formally, I've been acting as store manager for a few weeks now, so it'll be good to finally be formally promoted next month. This is a formal event, so please make sure you wear a tie. Practice. I've just set up my own practice as a lawyer. Practice makes perfect. Don't you think what we learn at this college is just not practical enough? It's too focused on theory. Medicine. Why are there so many different types of cold and flu medicine if they all do the same thing? Thoroughly. I've checked this pretty thoroughly, so there shouldn't be any mistakes. The thoroughness of the janitor is just amazing. Control. I broke up with my girlfriend because she was always trying to control every aspect of my life. Case. For some reason, everybody seems to think I love baseball, but that's really not the case. Saying that your job is rewarding sounds a bit of a cliche, but in my case, it's true. I'm pretty sure this information is correct, but can you double check it just in case? Prior to this, doctors acquired and accumulated their skills and wisdom through word of mouth, as well as trial and error, leading to huge differences among medical professionals. Prior, prior to studying here, I spent a couple of years traveling around Asia. Acquire. It's not too difficult for a child to acquire two or more languages at the same time. Do you hate the bitter taste of coffee? It's an acquired taste, so just keep drinking it, and you'll appreciate it eventually. Accumulate. What's the best way to accumulate knowledge as quickly as possible? The accumulation of knowledge takes both time and focus. Wisdom. I always enjoy hanging out with my grandpa because he shares so much wisdom with me. Word. I love reading everything he writes because he just has a way with words. His Facebook posts are always wordy. I think you should change your wording a bit in the report. Trial. My free Netflix trial expires tomorrow, but I'm still not sure if I want to pay for a subscription. I can't help watching when celebrities go on trial. Just give it a try and see what happens. Huge. I know she has a huge ego, but she's one of the best singers in the world. However, since the beginning of the 20th century, the rapid rate of improvement and reform in medicine has been largely driven and fueled by breakthroughs in medical theory and equipment. Rapid. I think we should build more infrastructure to deal with this rapid population growth rate. At this rate, we are never going to get Osaka, so no more toilet breaks for the rest of the trip. Why is the cost of living in Australia increasing at such a fast rate? You should check its reviews and ratings before you buy. Reform. I'm not sure if this economic reform will work, but we have to try something. Drive. The widespread usage of mobile devices is driving the digital banking boom in Latin America. This mass problem is driving me crazy. My boss is such a slave driver. Fuel. I accidentally fueled the argument by opening old wounds. Mocking the teacher while she's angry is just adding fuel to the fire. Breakthrough. My good gut tells me that we are about to make a breakthrough, so don't give up just yet. Equipment. I've been focusing more on practicing my photography rather than buying more equipment. Inventions such as antibiotics and flu vaccines, together with developments in the field of chemistry, genetics, and radiography, accelerated these improvements and the transition to modern medicine. Antibiotic. I feel better already. So do I really need to take these antibiotics for another week? Flu. It's so annoying how I seem to get the flu every couple of weeks during the winter. Sorry, but I can't come to the party tonight. I'm almost dying from the flu right now. Vaccine. I know how important vaccines are, but it doesn't stop them from being painful. You should get vaccinated before you travel to any tropical country. Chemistry. The most annoying thing about chemistry is having to memorize the periodic table. I'm worried that this hair dye has dangerous chemicals in it. Genetics. I don't know if it's genetics or something else, but I never gain any weight no matter what I eat. You know how Coriandro tastes like soap to some people. That's genetic. Accelerate. I decided to attend a workshop to accelerate my career. The acceleration on Emma's new car is insane. Riding in it feels like being in a video game. Transition. I'm finding the transition from working life to retirement pretty strange, but I'm sure I'll get used to it. When changing jobs, it's natural to experience a traditional transitional period before you become comfortable. The package is still in transit. You know how we look at medical practices of the past and think that you are terribly crude and primitive. Do you think future generations will look at our modern techniques, which we consider the peak of human ingenuity, and think that we are brutal barbarians using inferior methods? I certainly hope not. In our defense, it's not like we are cutting people up alive to study their hearts or letting their blood to observe how blood flows. Besides, technological advancements continue to help us improve. I guess that's true. Innovations like nanobots should aid us in reducing the need for invasive uncomfortable producers, procedures such as surgery. Aug- Augmented reality should also minimize commutes for patients. Yeah, I am sure that we will devise substitutes for these uncomfortable procedures. In the meanwhile, we need to continue to demonstrate compassion and due diligence in treating patients. Terribly. I'm terribly sorry. Crude, primitive, peak, ingenuity, brutal, barbarian, inferior, defense, flat. Your noise is reading. Flow. Stop overthinking. Just go with the flow. Besides, aid, procedure, surgery, commute, substitute, demonstrate, compassion, do.